Today, I'm going to share with you my top 10 ultimate tools for card making. I'm going to start with the stamp positioning tool. It has been a game changer if you do any kind of stamping in your card making, and these tools have come a long way and can be used for so much more than just basic stamping. There is sticky grid mats, there is guides that you can buy for them. The stamp wheel here has a sticky grid mat built into it, and it also has a plate that you can rotate and create patterns with your stamps. So not one of the cheaper tools today, but definitely something that is worth the investment, especially if you have any problems with arthritis or any hand or arm issues. This can make such a difference. So while we're talking about stamping, I'm going to let you know that something that I use nearly every day is a Shammy. It's just a simple, like a car cleaning Shammy. I just buy it in bulk, cut it up into bite-sized pieces, and one Shammy will last me probably years by the time I cut it up and use it all, because it's reusable, it's washable. I keep it in, this is an egg cooking container. I bought it from a cheap shop. It just has a couple of air holes in the top, which stops it from getting too smelly. I can just rinse this Shammy out and reuse it. And I just use this to clean my stamps. I do also use stamp cleaning sprays if I need to, but more often than not, this is enough. And I can also use it to clean my work surfaces. And I did have to mention my ink blending tools. I use these so much more than I thought I would. I have always struggled with ink blending, especially on large surface areas, and these large tools that were introduced by Altenew made all the difference for me. So they're very easy to use, they have a really soft brush, they have all different sizes, and I do recommend that if you are going to try ink blending and you haven't had much success with it, I would start by changing out your cardstock. I would also recommend using watercolor cardstock or Bristol Smooth cardstock, because typically that's going to give you an easier blend. I would also recommend changing out or trialing a few different styles of ink blending tools until you're happy with what you like. You don't need many of each tool, but you do need a few different sizes. I initially wasn't that fond of this size tool from Altenew, but now it's my go-to. So practice does make a difference, and I totally steered away from ink blending because I wasn't happy with the results that I was getting. So it's nice to be able to feel confident and get some beautiful stencils out and create some really easy cards, because ink blending is such an easy way to color and get some beautiful results with little effort, and it's fast and easy to do. Going from ink blending to sticky grid mats, and there are so many different versions of these mats. This is a newer one from Altenew, and it's huge. It's 9 by 12 inches. I love the fact that I can use one side of the mat with my stencils. This mat holds my stencils in place while I'm coloring, and I can actually have my inks sitting off to the side, and while I'm tapping on the ink pad, the mat's actually holding them in place as well. And I'm also finding that I'm using these grid mats to hold my die cuts in place while I'm either ink blending or coloring them, or even assembling them. And speaking of assembling, tweezers are definitely a go-to for me. I pretty much use them on most cards. I use a lot of embellies. I do a lot of assembling of die cuts, and I used to use these reverse grip tweezers all the time, and literally they open up when you press them, and the opposite, and then they'll hold your cardstock or whatever in place. It's almost like having an extra hand. But for some reason, I don't know, I think it's just the style of these tweezers are a little bit easier for me to hold. I don't have to think about it too much or put too much pressure on them to get them closed. They're a nice fine tip, and I touch glue with them all the time, and they never seem to build up a glue residue on the end. But definitely grab yourself a pair of tweezers, very affordable and essential for making. I had to include tweezers on my ultimate tool list because I use them all the time. Let's talk trimmer. I have a huge trimmer. It's a Pro something, Precision, that's it. I do have, oops, let me show you. I know you'll want to see it. I got sick of buying, excuse the dust. I got sick of buying blades. That's what it was. So I decided to get a self-sharpening trimmer, and this is the Precision from Fiskars. It's not, as far as large trimmers and self-sharpening go, this is not ridiculously expensive, but the blades were getting so costly, and I found, just for making all my card bases and everything, I use this all the time. It does open out to 12 by 12 as well, so it is big. It ticks all the boxes for me. I don't have to buy blades. I can make my card bases really quickly, and it's very accurate. But my real go-to trimmer, when I'm creating, I would typically use this little trimmer here. It's a Fiskars Shoreline, I think it's called, and it has a guide wire in it. It does have the blades that are replaceable. I do buy the titanium blades, so they last a little bit longer. I do flip them around. I have been known to sharpen the blades as well. But I've found now that I use my big trimmer for most of my card bases and long cuts, the amount of cutting that I do with this small trimmer is so much less that I'm not going through the blades so much. So it makes it more affordable. I like the size of this one. It still fits an A4 size of cardstock lengthways. So if I need to, this is the one I take traveling. If I need to, I can make a card base using this trimmer. And it cuts beautifully. Now I know this smaller trimmer is a little bit harder to find, and I do know there is a slightly larger version of the Shoreline trimmer from Fiskars. I haven't had one of those specifically, but I do know that this one cuts very accurately, which makes me happy. Now that we've got some card bases ready to make, my next top tool is a score tool. You do not have to have a score tool to create score lines in your cards. I use quite thick cardstock. It's 110 pound. So I would recommend using a score tool, purely because if you don't score your cards first, then you have the potential for the cardstock to crack when you do fold it. This is the Altenew version of a score tool. I also have an older one from Martha Stewart, which has been, let me show you. So I've had this one for so many years. I don't know if you can see, I've used it. This is a version of the bone folder. You can see here where the plastic, they're not really consumable. They do last a long time, but I can't tell you how many hundreds of cards I've scored on this specific line. Obviously a few. You can also use score tools to add details to your projects as well as create fun fold card designs. Which brings me to my next ultimate tool, which is a bone folder. It's also not essential, but can make such a difference to getting a nice crisp edge on your cardstock folds. The trick is that typically, so this is the indented side, which is the valley side. The mountain side is the bumpy side. It feels like you want to fold it this way, but in fact you fold it so that the valley side is on the outside. And the best thing about these Teflon bone folders is that they don't leave that sort of shine on the cardstock when you use them. And you just simply run it up and back on the fold of the card and you get a nice crisp edge. Great for fun fold cards. Next, I want to talk about this eraser. It is an essential tool and very affordable in card making. You use it to erase pencil marks, and also if you're colouring with pencils, you can fix any mistakes with that as well. Small smudges can sometimes be corrected with it, but the main reason I use this is to condition my stamps when I have a new photopolymer stamp that hasn't had ink on it before. By using the eraser, by lightly wiping it over the top of the stamp, it just allows it to take the ink a little bit better, especially if you're wanting to use dye inks, and you'll get a much better stamping result. I had to include the heat tool, of course, because who doesn't love heat embossing? The effects that you get on your cards, it's amazing. But I also use this particular tool if I'm doing any kind of mixed media or watercoloring. I'll often grab this out and use it on the low setting, because who wants to watch paint dry? Our time is precious. We want to make cards. And I've got a sneaky little extra here. It's the powder tool. This makes all the difference when you're heat embossing. By prepping your cardstock with powder, can save you so much time because it prevents those stray embossing powders getting onto your project. Are you ready for the bonus? It's a mechanical pencil. I use this on every single card that I make. I have one in every colour, and they're very affordable and refillable. You can just add extra leads. It has a nice fine writing point and an eraser. Who would have thought? You know how I know that these are my go-to tools? They are all within arm's reach. I use them on nearly every card that I create. And I hope that you've enjoyed seeing my ultimate collection of card making tools. I'd love you to let me know in the comments below if you'd include any of these tools in your top 10 ultimate card making tools, or if you have other tools that you'd include in yours. I've got a couple more videos here for you to enjoy. I look forward to seeing you there. If you did like today's video, please click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back again real soon. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.